Hi, and welcome to another Wednesday's Word. Today I want to talk about spiritual growth. Recently I was reading Galatians chapter 5 that compares the fruit of the Spirit to the works of the flesh. And the fruit of the Spirit, it's a singular word, fruit. In English, the plural of fruit is fruit, like the plural of deer is deer. And I've always wondered what the plural of Danish is, if it's Danes or Dani or Danishes. But in Greek, there's actually two different words for fruit. There's the singular fruit, and then there's a plural construction with a different ending and everything. So Paul was specific when he wrote that the fruit of the Spirit was a singular word. The works of the flesh, that's a plural. But the fruit of the Spirit is singular. And I think what Paul is getting at, and Jonathan Edwards talks about this, Tim Keller helped me translate Jonathan Edwards in one of his sermons, talks about how it's an organic thing that has to grow together. And the best analogy I can come up with is what's happening around my yard right now. When we moved into our house, the person who lived there before must have been a master gardener. There's sage and lavender and different flowers, nicely spaced with lots of beautifully mulched space in between them. But over time, mulch begins to go away. And if you're not attentive to those empty spaces, things begin to volunteer that you don't necessarily want there. This past summer and spring, Erica and I have been a little distracted with a thing kicking around the house. So we haven't been spending lots of time in the yard just pulling weeds and enjoying the sun. As a consequence, things are looking a little overgrown. We spent some time the other day just on one little corner of the yard and filled the entire yard waste with plants I don't even know what was going on, little viney things that were trying to crawl and take over and infiltrate all the other intended growth there. And then compare that to in the front of our house in a little, actually not a little, but a good sized pot, we have a cedar tree. This one also started as a volunteer, and we moved it, put it in the pot, gave it plenty of good dirt, we water it, but that doesn't grow very quickly. We have vines and weeds that we don't want that are growing out of control, but the intended thing seems to be growing slower. And I compare that to the growth that sometimes I see in my soul. Sometimes there's things that I'm really wanting God to grow, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. But there's other things that maybe I'm not being as attentive to that God is giving growth to. And here's the thing about organic growth, is we can't control it. In a different context, Paul talks about growth and he says that I watered, he's talking about a church and how the gospel grew in Corinth. I watered Apollos, or I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth. And I think it's also fair to use that same analogy when we talk about our spiritual growth, that we water, people plant into us, and through daily Bible reading and other spiritual disciplines, we stay close to the giver of life, we stay close to the sower who scatters the seed on us, but only God can give growth. And that is immensely freeing, because when I'm not seeing my patience grow and I'm not seeing my temper calm down, I can sometimes get frustrated with myself and start beating myself up and start wondering, am I really connected to God? All these things. But then I remember, okay, be patient. That cedar tree isn't dead. The cedar tree in front of my house is slowly growing. I just have to be patient. And sometimes your spiritual life can be like that. And I want to share this because I think a few people in our congregation and people who listen to this in our community might be going through seasons like that, seasons where you're going through a time of mourning or a time of frustration, maybe some health challenges, and then you step back and look at your spiritual life, maybe you're not seeing growth. Well, be patient with yourself. Stay close to the grower, stay close to the giver of life. Don't use that as a liberty to say, okay, well, I guess I can't control my temper, I'm just going to be mad at everything. No, do what we can to do to stay connected to God, to be diligent to our emotions and to our inner life. But ultimately, it's God who gives the growth. And so if we have that perspective, we can be so free. We don't have to somehow become the next John Calvin or John Piper or anyone else that we see as that figurehead. And if we got to talk to those people, they probably didn't have the inner lives that they wished they had either. We're not striving to be like this hero, we're striving to be like Jesus. And that's a lifetime. It's not going to happen this side of heaven. Between now and then, be patient with yourself. Stay close to God's word. But who knows? There might be things growing in you that you're not even willing to see right now. Just like if I only looked at that cedar tree in the front of my yard, it would be a very frustrating time. But then you walk around back and you see all these weeds and all these bushes that are just giant and have this vibrant life to them. And you think, oh, so that's what's been going on in my yard. It's not about this one thing. And you compare this to my spiritual life. Right now, I really want to be growing in patience. I want to not get frustrated when things aren't going my way, when I get stuck in traffic, when, whatever is happening. And that is happening slowly. But what else is happening in my life? If I step back, I can see resilience is growing, an ability to moderate my temper. All these other things are beginning to happen in my life that God is giving growth to. And so be patient, stay close to God, because the works of the flesh are easy. We begin to build those on out of our frustrations, out of our pride, out of our self-indulgence. It's easy to heap on drunkenness and anger and divisions. But the fruit of the Spirit are things like joy, peace, patience, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, things that slowly build in our lives. So stay close, stay attentive, and don't get discouraged. All right, that's all I got for you this week. God bless.